السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. أعتقد أن الصوت واضح. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. مرحبا بكم في دورة أخرى من دورات جوجل، التي تسمح بإذن الله أن تتعلموا الكثير من الأشياء والكثير من التكنولوجيات الحديثة. حصة اليوم ستكون بالإنجليزي، لكن إذا كانت لديكم أي أسئلة يمكنكم طرحها، وستكون بإذن الله هناك دورات أخرى بالعربية، وهناك بالطبع دورات بالعربية يمكنكم أن تشاهدوا الدورات التي قمنا بعملها من قبل، وستكون بإذن الله دورات في المستقبل. دورة اليوم ستكون حول المعطيات والبيانات the data. إذا سنتحدث الآن بالإنجليزي، وإذا كانت لديكم أي استفسارات أو أي أسئلة يمكنكم طرحها، سنجاوب عليها بإذن الله في آخر الحصة. الزلف اللون. Welcome everybody. معكم عليان عبد النور جي دي جي تيزوزو. Today we are going to talk about the data and why it's important. From the title, I made it data the next generation oil, because that will be what people how people will make money in the future, because everybody knows that the oil will no longer exist in future. So we need to invest somewhere else. We need to invest in a place where we can have money, where we can have something that we can sustain for a long time. So don't worry about it. I'm going to explain it in the basic steps, and there will be advanced. So this session is for beginners. So don't worry. If you have anything, if you have questions, just let me know. Okay, let's start. So of course, you can fill the form to get a certificate at the end of this session. Okay, right now we are in what we call the fourth industrial revolution. So there were three industrial revolutions in the past. There were the invention. I will enable this. So there were the invention of the steam machine, and then the gasoline engine cars, and then the semiconductors and the computers. But right now we are in this era where there are the IoT, the big data, and the cloud computing. So we will try to make money from this, because this is how people are getting rich right now, from those three topics. We are going to explain the tools and what that means. So everywhere there is data, everybody is talking about data. We are right now with this video, with this stream, we are using the data. You are watching this video, I'm talking, I'm using the sound, I'm using the slides, I'm using the video. So everything is data. The servers are having logs. So everywhere there is data. And because there is data, we want to make money from this. And making data from money, that's why you will find a lot of people talking about this business intelligence, or the BI. Everyone is talking about this. This is the trend. This is the hype. Don't worry. We will explain how to be like SpongeBob with a lot of money. Because right now data is currency. And when we say that data is currency, we are not talking about blockchain and that and how to make money from mining. We are talking about how to use the normal data that we already have to gain money. So to do this, let's have some stats. So right now we are here. We are in the Middle East and North Africa. So if we watch this, we we see that 70% of people of the population is already connected. They have a cell phone, they have a computer, they are online. So we need to gain something from that number. And if you see North America, for example, they are at 90%, but even 70%, that's fine for us. In 2020, if we check what happens with this data, we have a lot of numbers we need. So there are more than 4 billion people online. And for example, every minute there are 4 million search queries on Google. So there are so much data online. And to explain this, you have to know that every minute, right now, there are 3.8 Google million Google search. So the amount of data in internet, it's really huge. You see this number, the zettabyte. What is the zettabyte? The zettabyte, it's 1024 petabytes, and every petabyte it's 1000 tera, and every 1 tera it's 1000. It's like 1000 multiplied by 1000 multiplied by 1000 and so on. So we have trillions and trillions of of bytes on internet, and we need to use that. So if we project this on future, we have to know that every user uses every second. Right now it's 1 second, we are uploading 1 megabyte to the internet, and the third of all this data is on the cloud. So we need to explore this and to gain money from this. And the cloud is not this. We are not going to burn all our documents and send them to the cloud. The cloud are just computers on Earth, and we are using them, and they are resources. So what is data? We can split the data on two main categories. There are unstructured data, and we have structured data. Structured data, they are easy, but the unstructured data, that's what we need. Why? Because structured data, they have some kind of structure, so we can extract information from it. But when we have unstructured data, we have a problem. For example, when we upload pictures, the computer don't know what those pictures contain. So we need what we call metadata, and metadata is the data of the data. And here is an example of a structured data. Everyone has already used Excel, or for example Google Sheets. So sometimes we forget some data here. So if we convert this to a flat file, this is what we call a flat file. It's called CSV. Notice that here, this empty information, we can't use space because space is an information. So we need to directly put a comma here, and we will see that later. And I give you an example. We said business intelligence, but right now we are not going to complicate the story with a business intelligence. Let's see, for example, that we are an engineer working for a company, and then if there is something, the first step we do is to check logs. Here is what we call a log. Because I'm streaming this, so I made those two pictures to be clear. here is, for example, an operating system on Linux, what we call a log. We have the date and we have the event. So in case there is a crash, we can read something here at what time that happened and what happened. And then here is a web server log. Notice that every log has its own structure. So we have the IP address, we have the time, we have what happened in that time. So if you compare these two logs, you will notice that they don't have the same structure. This has the date and then the host name and what happened, but this one, it has an IP address. So if we try to bring them all, we need to find a way how to reorganize them. And that's what we do. So why we do all this? Because we need what we call the insights. And the insight, here is an example. In the web development, we have a topic which is called the A/B testing. So let's suppose that we have a designer, and this designer told me, okay, I prefer to put the profile picture in the left. And then the other one, he said, no, what if we put it on the right? So what we do two versions of our website. And then we split the traffic. This one, for example, we send it to Algeria, and this one, for example, we send it to KSA, for example. And then what we do, we try to get the logs. And we measure how many people clicked on this picture and how many people clicked on this picture. So if we have more clicks here than this one, we will pick this one because a click is just an event. And since it's an event online, we can have something like this get. It's what we call in HTTP a get. So to have the insight, we measured how many people clicked on this and how many people clicked this, and we choose it based we choose the right solution based on logs. So that's the first information you need to know. We use logs to gain insights, but internet is not that easy. If you check this, we have structured data, but in internet, people upload anything and then they don't say what they upload. And it's even worse when they upload something, but they lie about the content. For example, people upload on YouTube, and then in the past there were the concept of the tags, so they put anything because they think that people, when they search for some keywords, they will get directly to their videos. And this is what made the internet of today. Everyone is uploading anything, and it became really a garbage. So we need to reorganize this. And this is what happened with oil. In oil, we have like the nature, the evolved with time, and then we got an oil, and then with oil, we don't use oil. We use something derived from oil. And to do this, we need three kind of jobs. We have the data scientist, we have the data analyst, and then we have the data engineer. Look that I put a weird dragon on the data engineer. Why? Because people keep talking about the data scientist and the data analyst, and then they forget about the data engineer. Because the data scientist and the data analyst, they work together to make insights. We have the data, and then they work together to give us the insights. Don't worry, we will explain what they exactly do. And why the job of that data analyst is so, it's like a hype. Everywhere you will check someone who wants to hire somebody, you will see that he wants a data scientist because we have enough data and we have enough machine power. So if we combine this and then we give them the statistics, we can have the data scientist. So the data science is the combination of the computer science with its power, with its data and machine power, and we combine it the statistics concepts. So always we ignore the data engineer. The data analyst and the data scientist work together, while the data engineer, we don't hear about him. But what really is all the pipeline. This is the pipeline is made by the data engineer. So the data engineer, if you choose the data engineer, you will have a lot of work. All the dirty job, it will be on you. And I just changed the picture. So what I put now, I put the data analyst, because the data analyst, he do a job, but he will not do the big job as the data engineer or the data scientist. And we will see that later. So if we compare what we do in data with what happened with the oil industry, because the title contains the oil, so I prefer to give you directly the example. So the wells, here is the wells, al-abar, are what we call the data lakes. So we have the wells where we bring something from the ground. So this is called the data lakes. So we have a lake of data. And the refinery, where we will split the oil to different components, is called the data warehouse. So in computer, we have the data lake to the warehouse, and the oil industry, we have the wells to the refinery. And when we work with data, we will hear always two jobs, OLTP and OLAP. So OLTP stands for Online Analytical Processing, and OLAP stands for Online Transaction Processing. The difference when to use OLTP and when to use OLAP, it matters with the resources. So when we have big data, we can't fit the whole big data on RAM, and we can't have enough power CPU to calculate them, because we have beta or zeta octet of data. So to do this, we need OLTP. So the OLTP, we use it with big data, because we can't have so much data to fit in RAM. But OLAP, OLTP, I inverted this. OLTP is for transactions. So transactions is, for example, MySQL. Here we have small chunks of data. They can fit on the RAM. But when we do analytics, we can't have this data fit all in the memory. So we use the OLAP. So the OLAP is for analytics. We don't need real time. We have big data, but OLTP, we need real time, and we have small chunk of data. And when I talk about small, it's relatively small. This is not like 1 mega. This is like, we can say 1 giga, because there are servers where there are 32 giga and so on. And because we hear about the OLAP, we hear about the data mining. So we mine in data to have insights. And in this job, we will always find three words: EL, ETL, and ELT. The EL stands for extract and then loads. That happens when we have the same structure of the data. For example, we have CSV files, and then we put them on the data warehouse. We don't need transformation. And sometimes we have our data in our servers, and we want to put them on the cloud. So what we do, we extract, and then we load, and then we transform. Why we load? Because we need to correct the data. For example, we have missing data. We have like someone who typed the data in a way that makes mistakes. Here we need to extract and then load and correct it and transform it, and then we save it. And then the third one is the ETL. We need to extract, transform, and load. Why? Because sometimes we need, for example, to compress the data. Here, we extract, we make the transformation to make our data smaller, and then we load it. So this is the three tasks we do on data. We extract and load it, or we extract and load it and then we transform it, and then, or we extract and then transform and then we load. And here is the three jobs I talked about earlier: the data scientist, the data engineer, and the data analyst. So we have different sources. We have internet, we have text documents, we have pictures, we have videos, we have many types of data. And then those data, they can stay on internet, or we bring them to what we called earlier on our data lakes. So data lakes, they can be binary files, they are not structured, or they are structured in databases. So this is the first step. And then we call our data engineer. Why we need our data engineer? To make the pipelines. They will do the Hadoop, the Java, the programming stuff, and then they need to know SQL. They need to know NoSQL. That's why I told you that the data engineer, they do the big job. And then their salary, look that, notice that I used the $sign to distinguish between them. So we will talk about the salary just in a minute. And then once he do that, sorry, we will put the data on the data warehouse. So we bring them from the data lake, we transform them, we put them on the data warehouse, and then the two other people will do their job. So the data scientist, he needs some statistics, he needs some machine learning or deep learning background, and he is the most paid from the three because he will do a great job. And then we have the data analyst. The data analyst, he will need to have like Excel background, SQL, and then some business intelligence tools because he needs to build the dashboards. So, because his task is not that complicated like the two other, he is the less paid from the three. So, this one is paid, for example, $1. This one is paid $3, and then this one is paid $4. So, if you want to get the job that makes you a lot of money, you choose the data scientist. But you need a lot of mathematics and a lot of statistics. Now, if you already have a background in computer science and in engineering, then you choose the data engineer. Now, if you are someone who likes dashboards and likes to do SQL, then you are a data analyst, but you will not get paid like the two others. And when we have data, generally we do two kinds of processing. We do a batch processing and we do stream processing. So what's the difference? Let's see some numbers about the oil industry. So the oil money, you need to know that there are trillions on the ground. So here is an example. We have, for example, the offshore. This is like when we extract oil from the oceans. You need to know that when they do their job, they use data. So generally, they generate between 1 to 2 terabytes of data every day. The problem is that we cannot analyze them here. So we need a place where to analyze them. So to do this, we use a satellite connection because we are in the middle of nowhere. So we don't have connection. That's why we need a satellite connection. So to do this, there is a problem. It takes 12 days to transfer 1 tera of data. because our bandwidth is 2 megabit by second. And that's a problem. It will take a lot of time. So why does this matter? Because you need to know this, you are renting it. And because you are renting this, you are paying for it. And then the more time it takes, the more money you will spend. So here are some numbers. You have to know that when you drill in offshore, that costs you $1 million by day. And then every well, it costs hundreds of millions of dollars if we combine the whole process. So the more you spend times, the more you are going to pay money. That's why we need a way how to process the data fast. And here is another concept of processing the data in a fast way. It it is our own health, because health is everything. So if we go to the doctor, he can give us some sensors, and then those sensors, they will send the data to the doctor, and then the doctor will do his feedback. For example, we have like something about cardio, about our heart rate, and these sensors, it will send the data to the hospital or to the doctor. So the doctor, when he sees that there is something wrong, then he will do the action because he got the insight. So if we take time to process this data, we can lose our own health. So time is money and time is health. So we need to find a way how to process this data. And for this, they made a lot of tools. The first tool we need, this is like this one, I just put it for web developers because, for example, we have sentiment analysis on Twitter. For example, we want to check if a product made a positive feedback or a negative feedback. So to do this, we have two ways to do that. We directly go to Twitter and we tell them, give us the API. But the problem about the API is that we have to pay money. And then there is another problem, is that we are limited in time. But there are the other way, the direct way, is directly go to the page and then scrap. That's what we call scrapping. We bring the word, we go to the HTML page, and then we search the word, and then we bring the text with that word, and then we analyze that word. And the tool that we use, the one that I know, it's on Python, it's called Beautiful Soup. But we will have sometimes some missing data. Here is an example. As I told you earlier, someone forget to put some data here. How we are going to deal with that? Imagine someone put a space instead of just leaving it empty. And this will have problems when we will process them. And that's what we call the exploratory data analysis, EDA. This job is made by the data analyst. So what he do, he checks the data and he looks if there are mistakes. To do this, we use tools like pandas. Pandas, with the combination of matplotlib, it's on Python, we can check if there are missing data. Or we can directly use chart tools. And chart tools, you can, for example, opt for d3.js. This is like on web browser and it's open source. Now, what the data engineer do? Those two jobs, those two tools, they are used by data analyst. Now, the data engineer, why his job is complicated? Because the data engineer uses what we call Hadoop. Hadoop is not a tool. Hadoop is this. This is a framework. You see, there are Hadoop HDFS to store the data. We have the yarn to synchronize the job. we have the zookeeper, we have a lot of tools. We need to use all those tools to say, hey, I use Hadoop. That we cannot say I use Hadoop just because I use HDFS. And look at this word, map reduce. If you see here, I put the distributed processing. Why Hadoop is used in big data? Because as I said earlier, when we use OLAP for analytics, we have so much data that we can't fit in a normal computer. So what we do, we split the data. For example, this word, Hadoop, what we do, the H, we will send it to someone. The A, we will send it to someone. And the D, for example, I give you an example. Imagine we want to do the Hadoop in capital letters. So because this work is, we need the H to be H capital, A capital, D capital, and so on. It can takes time. So what we do, we send the H to one machine, the A to one machine, the D to one machine, and so on. And once they did all that job, we get the word. So splitting the jobs, it's called map, and getting back the job, it's called reduce. So that's what we call the map reduce. And we will have sessions, detailed sessions about this topic. And then imagine that we have data that we need to analyze them in real time. Here, we can have batch processing, but what if we need to do that in real time? Here, the streaming comes handy. And to do that, we use a tool that's called Apache Beam. And then sometimes we need to process this data to have the model which is called the publisher and subscriber. I give you an example. For example, there was this session on YouTube. You wanted to see it, for example, last week. So what you do, you you come to YouTube and then you tell YouTube to notify you. So what you did, you subscribed to this topic. So once the video starts, YouTube will publish the information to you. So you are a subscriber waiting for a task. And once this task starts, you will publish the stream. So this is like, you can imagine this as a notification system. And we use Apache Kafka. And then sometimes we need some tools where we do the job and see and watch the jobs. Here is an example. Imagine that we do the workflow and then we need to use the nodes, because it will be handy to use the nodes than programming it using Python. So because those nodes are easy, that's what we call the directed acyclic graph, and it's easier to use this. So to use this, we use Airflow. And then imagine that we make everything easier than we expect. That's why we use a tool called CDAP. That's a framework that makes Hadoop really easy. They are just tools. Don't worry. Every tool we will use a session specialized for it. But remember, all those tools, we are just using ETL or ELT to do like extract, transform, and load, or extract, load, and transform. By the way, this beam, this is like for, you can remember it for binary streaming. So for example, I want to convert PNG files to JPEG files. So I need to stream them and then convert them in real time. I can use directly Beam. Now, why do we need to use Google Cloud on this? Because this, when you use something on your machine, you need a lot of RAM, lot of CPUs, and the disk. There is no problem with this. Now they are cheaper. You have and you need lot of bandwidth because you need to stream data, And then for people coming from data analysts, they know that now we need GPUs, graphic process units, and then we use special hardware that's called tensor process units. This is made for TensorFlow for deep neural network. And investing on those kind of hardware that costs a lot, especially that our job, we don't do it 24 hours. So why do you need to invest millions and then make them useful only for 3 days or 4 days and then shut them down for 1 month? That's why the cloud is useful, because the cloud, you will use only what you need and then you pay as you go. So the tools that we use in the cloud, we can split them between two. They are fully managed and serverless. So when you go to GCP, you will find two types of tools. Fully managed, that means that they manage them for you. They update them, they patch them, they do security stuff. So as an example, Cloud SQL, Bigtable, and Spanner, we'll set them in few seconds. And then they have the serverless, which is the base of the Cloud 3.0. It's just a mouse. You will use a mouse, and then there are a lot of stuff that happens in the background. For example, Cloud Run, Cloud Function, App Engine, Firestore, Data Store, Dataproc, and Dataflow. So those are serverless, which means that you don't need to know what happens. You just click and then let it go. And then managed service, this is like when you want to do the engineering by yourself. And here are the resume of the tool. So if you need the data lake to bring the data, what you need? You need the cloud storage. The cloud storage is the disk. You need to store the binary files, videos, text, image, and so on. You need something about SQL, structured data. Then you need Cloud SQL, for example, MySQL, Postgres, and then Cloud Spanner if you need something highly available and extremely distributed. And if you work with NoSQL for your data, you can have them on the RAM using the memory store, for example, Redis, or Cloud Bigtable, or Cloud Firestore. Firestore, you can imagine it a document database, for example, MongoDB. We have already made sessions about this, but don't worry. All those tools, we will split them in the future and we'll do every tool, it will have its own session. And then the networking, because you are on the cloud, you will have much bandwidth to work with your data. Because you need big data, you need bigger bandwidth. So for binaries, use GCS. For Google Cloud Storage, for SQL, use those tools. For NoSQL, use those tools. And by default, you have enough bandwidth. So this is for data lakes. Now, because after data lakes, you need a data warehouse, and this is where BigQuery is the best. Because BigQuery, not only it's a data warehouse, but it mixes the jobs. It tries to break the gap between the data scientist and the data analyst. So if you want to use something that mixes the two jobs, you just use BigQuery. And if you need to use the solution Kafka on the cloud, then you use the cloud PubSub, because you have on your on-premise, this is the word we call it when you have your own solution, your own cloud. So if you want to transfer your job to the cloud, you use the PubSub. Now, if you want to check about your data, what happens with the data, you want to have your insights because you are a data analyst. You use the Data Studio, which is not a part of Google Cloud. You can directly check on that Data Studio outside of GCP. If you want to correct the data because there are some missing data, you can directly use Cloud Data Prep, which is in partnership with Trifacta. And now, if you want to do the data engineer, so those two ones are for the data analyst, and if you want to do the the big job, you directly go to Dataproc, and when on Dataproc, you will convert your jobs that you already made on Spark or on Hadoop directly to the cloud. And if you want something directly on the stream, you use the data flow. So all those tools, the good thing is that they are fully managed or serverless, which means that you pay only for what you do. You have, for example, a contract with someone for 1 month. You don't need to buy a hardware for years and spend a lot of money. You just go to the cloud, make your calculation, gain money, and then that's it. For Airflow, you use Cloud Composer. Composer is a new tool. And the newest one, you can check for data fusion, which I told you, it's the simplification. This is Hadoop made really, really simple. And then if you already use Jupyter for Python, you just use Data Lab. By the way, Jupyter on Google, that's free if you use Colab. But if you want to use something more advanced, you opt for Data Lab, because on Data Lab you can even have BigQuery directly on Data Lab. And if you are a data scientist, you can have your machine learning tool sets directly here. So this is all the tool sets for image, for text, and if you want to program by your own, you use the Cloud AI platform. And of course, BigQuery, as we said earlier, that it simplifies this. And because you need to monitor this, as we saw earlier, we need logs to decide. For example, today I rent a hardware on GCP, and I rent, for example, 8 GB of RAM, and then I saw that my machine don't work good. So what I do, I check on Stackdriver, which is now called Google Cloud Operations Suite, and then I will see that there is a problem. So what I do, I will add more RAM. I will make it, for example, 16 GB of RAM, because I need to monitor, and from monitoring, I get logs, and from logs, I get insights. And then, for example, you have your data in your on-premise, and then you want to use only the calculation from the cloud. Here you can opt for this hybrid solution about networking. Or you can use directly a service mesh to make, like, instead of using VPN or dedicated interconnect and so on, you can directly use a service mesh. But since data is everywhere, we need a legislation about data. We need something to make it legal, because not anyone can use your data. There is this joke on internet, which I find it like wrong, because they say there is no cloud, it's just someone else's computer. No, this is someone else compute power, because when you say computer, this is like, okay, here is your my computer at your house, do it whatever you want. No, we just need the resources, because what happens in cloud, for example, in GCP, your data is yours. It's not Google's data. Google gives you the power, not your data. Your data is secure, it's encrypted. You can even crypt your key encryption. So if you want something strict, you can check about the GDPR. It's European Union laws about data. They are really strict. And if you want to check how Google uses the rules of protecting your data, you can check those links. You will have all the report, and you will see how Google deals with the data. Your data is encrypted. Google don't check about your data. You get the power resources, but your data is totally secure. You can check those links. You will have all the information. So if we want to resume all the steps, and you want to enter the data science or the data engineer world, so your data is here, and you want to make decisions. So what we do, we collect the data, because this data is not structured or structured. We want to make all those steps that we saw earlier to make decision. So what we have data and we have decision. And because we have decision, we make better insights about your data, and you will gain money, and because you gain time. So you don't have just to sit and watch your sales grow. You need to have insights and decide. Thank you very much. I'm sorry for the beginning because it was like blurry. I hope you got the idea about the data, the problem about data, the tools about the data. So if you have any question, by the way, this is a link for the slides. They are free. You can use them. So let me check about the questions, if there are any. So, so please, do you have some questions? هل لديكم أسئلة؟ We have still like 15 minutes, so you can ask your question here. For example, the jobs, data analysts, data engineer, the tools, the cloud. So if you want to use the data, you need to know about the country you are going to use this data in their lens. For example, if you are in Europe, the rules are not the same when you are in USA, or for example, when you are in country in MENA. So you need to understand this concept. It's important. Any questions? How easy to AA, how easy to establish a big data company? That's a good question. So to have big data, you have to know that data is not free. You have to bring this data. So for example, you go to a company and then you tell them, okay, give me your Excel files so I can have insights. So this company needs to have already archive. It needs to have old data. That's why, for example, in weather forecasting, you will find that old historical data is not free. Even if the service is free, if you want to buy that data, it's not free because you will have insight about them and then you will have it to gain money. Oh, Ahmed Mash, if you have any case study in oil industry, uh, the best thing I can do is that I will make another session about how to do machine learning directly in oil industry because it's a big topic. But to resume this, you have to know that in oil industry we have three steps to make the oil. We have like the upper, the middle process, and then the bottom process where we extract the oil and then we transfer the oil and then we try to extract and separate the oil. So those three processes, you need data about how it works. For example, when you dig in the well, you need to make a 3D representation about that well, and you need like physics, and because you need to make it secured. Because imagine people are working and then there will be an earthquake. So to predict that there will be no earthquake and no damage, here we use data. So the data is for the insights. I will make a special session about this topic, only oil industry and how to use machine learning to gain insights and to accelerate the job. SF4 ستريت فايتر 4 في المستقبل يعتمد شركات على جوجل كلاود بلاتفورم. Yeah, because when you are in Google Cloud platform, you pay only for what you want. You don't, for example, let's say that you have your enterprise and then you want to do like your business intelligence. What you do, you go and buy servers, and then you with those servers you need to have stronger GPUs, stronger CPUs, lot of bandwidth, but the problem is that how many time you are going to exploit it. If you exploit it 24 hours by a day, how many days you are going to exploit it? Because if you don't exploit it, like if you only use it for 1 week in a month, the 3 other weeks you are just wasting your time. So the best idea is to use the solution on the cloud, because you are going to the cloud, pay for only what you do. Nothing more, nothing less. So anything else? We still have 8 minutes. Yeah, going back to the oil industry, as I told you earlier, if you rent let's call it the hardware. So if you rent it, imagine that you pay $1 million. Let's go back here to make it easier for you. So uh, where is it? I'm sorry. So where is that slide? Okay, so I will wait here. So imagine that the whole process costs you, for example, 1 month. You have to know that in 1 month, if you pay for, let's say, $10 million by a day, you will have 300 millions of the whole process. Now imagine that you use a cloud solution where you upload the data and then you stream the data. So you analyze it and then you gain insights. And then you want, for example, 3 days. You have to know that those 3 days that makes you money. You want 3 days. If we say like $10 million by a day, you just want 30 millions days, and they will go to the pocket. So can you imagine this? Any questions? By the way, if you want to learn all this stuff, you just go to the Quick Labs. Quick Labs is the official e-learning platform for Google Cloud platform. You can find a lot of labs, and it's a paid platform, but with those sessions you can have 1 free month where you can practice and then have badges and certificate, and then you can go to someone and say, hey, I know how to use data prep, for example, and he says, what is data prep? You explain him what is data prep, you have the certificate that you know how to use data prep, and then he will hire you. And then of course he will pay the money to rent the hardware from GCP, and then you will do the job, because it's not the problem about the tool. The problem is how to use the tool. And that's what we try to explain in those sessions, how to use those tools. Any other questions? So you can use the link QuickLab dash nov to have a free 1 month for free. You have to know that QuickLabs is not free, but with those sessions, you will have it for free. So I hope that this session made you understand at least one thing. So you can watch it again and you can use the slides and you can use the other sessions to understand a lot of other stuff, and then there will be other sessions in the future. شكرا جزيلا لكم. Stay safe. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.